Welcome back to How Women Write. This is your host, Jacqueline Fish, and today we are doing a solo episode. I've had some great interviews on, and I just love every guest, and I have a bunch more interviews lined up through the fall. If you have reached out about being a guest on the podcast, I am getting through these requests. I am so grateful to have so many amazing women who want to chat. It will likely be late September when I get back to you to schedule something, and then we can get you on later in the fall. Today, I want to chat a little bit about some things coming up, a little bit of a writing update. The last time I did a solo episode, I announced my latest writing project and how I was going to experiment with sharing it on Substack. I'm still doing that. However, what happened totally took me by surprise. The weekly feature is available through my paid subscription, and it's just $5 a month. And I called the feature the medicine pages. I didn't know exactly what the book was about. I have started shaping it. And actually, when I set out to write it, I had the idea for another book as well. So before I began that one, I was sitting with two ideas: this medicine book about practical medicine, what it really looks like, living a spiritual life, being fully present. That's about as much as I know. I have a good amount outlined and some old essays that I plan to rework into that. And I shared behind the scenes on Substack 2 weeks where I shared the actual drafts, the thinking behind it, how I was feeling. And the other book that I was wrestling with starting at the same time is in line with the book coaching that I've been doing live. So I taught a couple courses earlier this year, all in the similar vein of the living draft. And it was to meet your book draft and get going on it. There's a lot of energy work happening in there. It is guided visualizations and time to get still, plus practical coaching to help you bring your book to life. Because I've taught it so many times and I have this framework that is really very nonlinear. It is not an A to Z, follow these 12 steps and write your book, because I don't think that's how we write books. And by we, I mean you. And as a woman, as intuitive, some men too. I know I have a handful, maybe more than a handful of male listeners. If you're out there, send me an email so I know, which, as an aside, I might have to change the podcast name someday. That's something that's been pinging me for a little while. Like, is How Women Write the best name? And I know that people change podcast names and directions all the time. And here we are, almost 100 episodes in. Of course, there's going to be a change. I've changed the artwork since the beginning, the format, the cadence, and of course, the name might change. Not yet, though. I've got other things to work on. So I have this idea for this other book that is how to write a book. Get your draft out. Because when most people are sitting down to write a book, the biggest question is, where do I start? That's the biggest one. Next is, what even is this? Or they have a handful of book ideas and they're trying to choose one. And they hesitate to choose because they're worried about picking the wrong thing. And really, you need to choose something. I know that that advice probably sounds boring, but you really need to pick something and go in that direction, and then you will know. Trust me. I talk about this, how this resistance shows up in my community. And sometimes the resistance, it, sometimes the resistance will point you in another direction, but you need to get going to know that. So here I was, 2 weeks into working on this book that was all about medicine, calling my Substack feature the medicine pages, having two editions out there. And then something hit me that was both surprising and not surprising at all. We received the date when my son, newly 18, is moving back up north to play hockey. Now, he's been home since March. He did it last year, his first time living with another family. He finished his senior year doing homeschooling up there. And I knew that when he came home in March, I knew he'd be home for about 6 months, feeling so grateful to have the spring and summer together. And once August hit, I knew the countdown was on, although it didn't actually feel real until the date was on the calendar. So now, knowing that this goodbye is closer, travel is booked, it's real, and I noticed myself falling into a familiar pattern, and that was rehearsing the drop off again in the early days of having him not living here. Now, of course, he's 18. He's not going to live with us forever. And being my oldest, I have some feelings about it. It is totally normal. And from other parents I talk to, even social media posts, when they drop their teenager off at college to live with another family or even a dorm for a sport or a billet family, they all say that this was the hardest thing they've ever done. And I totally get it. Saying goodbye last year was like, what? I'm supposed to just leave him here? Of course, he's not alone. He had a family, a great family to live with, but it feels very unnatural to just leave your child somewhere else, especially if you're far away. So, the book that I started was all about medicine, and it needed to take a pause because this journey feels really emotionally significant for me at the moment. And I also know, having written four other books, that this detour is necessary and it's going to make the medicine book, that's what I'm referring to it for now as, stronger. By following my heart and my gut, I know that when I follow my intuition, my nudges, where the signs are pointing, I know that I will uncover things that need to be in the book. There's lessons I need to learn, not just the practical stuff, but the energy that gets infused into the work and the book because I followed my own energy. I write about energy first writing, intuitive writing. Of course, I have to follow my intuition. And years ago, I used to be the kind of type A writer who wouldn't even entertain another idea or a writing project until the first one was done. Like, I must focus and finish this thing. I have to do it. But I learned that we actually do need to focus on one project. So, absolutely, so that we can see when we need to switch to another one. Because it is so easy. And I gave this analogy to my writing community. That's the Intuitive Writing Studio this morning. I sent a quick daily voice memo. Today's was a little longer, it was around 7 minutes. And it was the visual of standing in front of a row of doors, the doors representing your writing projects, and you're not sure which one to choose. So you might walk up to one, open the door, look in, look around, close the door. Walk up to another door. Maybe you don't even grab the handle and turn it. You open another door, open it. You step in with one foot on the other side. You don't go all the way through, and then you close the door. And the story you tell is that I can't decide what to write, can't decide what door to walk through. You have to choose a door because what happens, this is all energy. When you choose the door, you commit, you walk through it fully, you are taking the actions, you're doing the thing, writing, outlining, drafting, talking, transcribing, whatever your writing project involves. And then you know pretty quickly if it was the most aligned project. I'm not going to say wrong project because I don't think there is no wrong, and I want to be very careful with my language with that. It is choosing what is most aligned. Now, I went all in on this medicine book, and very early on, I got a nudge to go in another direction. Now, some people might blame having a squirrel brain or shiny object syndrome on why they couldn't focus. Like, what is wrong with me? I have so many ideas. Why can't I just stick with one thing? There's nothing wrong with you. It's okay. but I needed to walk fully through that door to be able to know if that was the door that was right at the time. Appropriate is probably a better word, not right. So let's call it appropriate. So I'm going to keep that door open. I'm opening another door and I'm walking fully into this one. And the first nudge for this other book that came through about my son's billet adventure. So, billeting is when you live with another family for sports. It is very common in hockey. We actually hosted a billet hockey player years ago. I have family who billeted for probably a handful of years, maybe several years. I have friends who have hosted hockey billets. It is just very common in the hockey community. So I knew a lot about it. However, when you are on the end of dropping your child off or teenager, young adult for the first time, it feels very weird. So last year, I did write through some of that experience. There are a couple Substack articles on it. I will link to those in the show notes. And mid-July, I was traveling with him, definitely appreciating the time together because I know that at 18, I'm not going to have many more hockey trips with him. And we were staying with the family that he lived with, and the family he's going to live with again. He was up there in July for these tryouts, and I was sitting in the living room. The house was quiet. I don't think anyone else was home. And I looked out to the driveway to where his car would be parked this season. And I felt so many things all at once. I felt the gratitude for being able to watch him thrive in something he loves, to be able to support him in it, to be able to go along with the journey in a sport he's played for 11 years and all the places it's taken us and the people we've met, the relationships, the growth from playing a sport. It's just amazing. So, so much gratitude for that. And then I thought, there have to be other moms who feel like this, feeling the gratitude and heading into a season of dropping their teenager off somewhere, some as young as 15. And I wondered, could I write a book about this? And instantly I knew yes. There are a couple of things that really excited me about this book, knowing that it was very specific. It is about billeting, living with another family, how to prepare for that as a mother, how to prepare your kid for that, other family members. And it's incredibly specific in that that is the container and it is time bound. So the book is going to be focused on 1 year. And I pulled up the other essays I'd written on them. There are three. And that helped me see the shape of the book. And the other thing I did was, so here's what I did next once I had this idea. So I had the idea and then I went. I immediately created a new folder for the book and I started with a document. I went into old text messages, reviewed the old essays, and then started shaping it into a working table of contents. And I have a pretty solid idea of what the book is going to look like. And it's also one that I am fairly confident I can write quickly because it is so specific. Now, the book on the medicine pages, whatever that turns out to be, that's a little squishier. It's bigger and it's kind of foggy. I don't know exactly where I'm going. With this one, I have a clear picture. I'm covering the emotional, the change, the practical, like here's a list of things to hand the other billet mom or billet family, what to do leading up to it, settling in, navigating things throughout the year, staying connected when you're far away, and then even reintegrating back into a household when they move back. So very practical, and it is such a niche audience. So I'm really excited about this book. Next, I'm going to start writing into the table of contents I've shaped. And behind the scenes, I'm showing all of this on the paid Substack. And I mean, it's $5 a month. If you want to look, you can look, and you're going to watch this unfold in real time. I find sharing the process extremely helpful, as are my subscribers. They're also finding it really helpful because seeing how, like just how someone shapes a book makes it feel real for them. And their book idea is closer and they can start taking action on it. I know some who have already started writing a book, and it is just so exciting that by me sharing my process, they're able to step into their own as well. So I know what my next steps are on this one. I am all in on this. Plus, I also do my regular weekly Substack writing for the Energy First essays. Those usually come out on Sundays. And I'm really enjoying this process of staying open to how this one is coming out. Now, I've also shared in the Substack pieces that the way I'm writing this book and even the medicine book is different from how I've written all of my other books. It's probably even less linear, if that was possible. But I know that most of my clients really don't want a linear approach. Some of them think they do, but then when they try to fit their creativity into it and it doesn't work, they just can't do it. So I'm also showing how I'm using AI in the process, not to write, to organize, to suggest pieces that might be missing, to take months of messages and getting it organized into something to prompt me with what to write. So I can see the stuff I've already written and use it to spark another idea. So I hope you'll check that out. That is at my Substack. It will be linked in the show notes. And if you are wrestling with multiple writing projects, or even if you have a few going on at the same time, I hope that this lets you know that it is okay. Say yes to both. And then if one feels a stronger pull than the other, say yes to that and just keep going. Let the wonder take you wherever your story needs to go. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Drop me a line at hi@jacquelinefish.com and let me know how your writing project is going. I would really love to hear.